And as the conflict between Israel and Hamas continues, a survivor of the brutal 1976 massacre in Lebanon embraced her silence on the horrors that she endured when Palestinian terrorists attacked her town. One America's Pearson Sharp has more.
In October of 2023, the world watched in horror as unimaginable atrocities unfolded in Israel. Palestinian terrorists launched a coordinated attack, killing thousands of innocent civilians, and they captured hundreds more as prisoners. What we witnessed in the days, weeks, and months after the attack seemed like something out of a nightmare. And yet for the people living there, it was horribly real. The attack was the flashpoint for yet another war in a region that has suffered countless conflicts for nearly a century, as cultures, religions, and hostile ideologies collide. It seems like this part of the world has suffered more than its fair share of internecine wars and strife. Yet the massacre in October of 2023 is but the latest in a long line of brutal, bloody conflicts that have been tragically forgotten by most of the world, left behind by history and the daily news cycle. Although they happened decades ago, looking back at these tragedies is important because it helps us put modern events in perspective and helps us understand what's happening today and why. As it often happens in war, collateral damage finds victims in the unlikeliest of places, and when conflict breaks out in Israel, more often than not, it spills over into Lebanon, where innocent civilians pay the price. One such conflict that echoes the events of today happened 49 years ago in a little town just south of Beirut and has come to be known as the Massacre of Damour. In 1976, the small, mostly Christian town of Damour was decimated as Palestinian Muslims in the PLO descended on the residents brutally, slaughtering men, women, and children, with no regard for innocent civilians. The Muslim terrorists surrounded the town, launching a full-scale attack with artillery and ground troops, torturing and raping women and young girls who were unlucky enough not to escape. Some 500 people were butchered by the Palestinians that day, emptying the town of Christians and allowing the Muslims to occupy and resettle in their homes. Now, it's one thing for me to sit here and tell you about this tragedy, but it's quite another for you to hear it from someone who lived through it and personally experienced these horrors firsthand. Mona is a survivor of the Damour massacre. She was just 18 when the Palestinian terrorists came to her town and began slaughtering civilians. Then the Muslims came to her door and started shooting. Both her 12-year-old brother and her 10-year-old sister were shot and killed by the Palestinians before they turned their guns on Mona. As they began firing, Mona fell to the ground, throwing her hands up to protect her face, an act which she says saved her life. She was shot multiple times, the terrorists shooting her in the head and face, and then leaving her for dead as she lay in a pool of her own blood on the ground. I know it's gruesome and it's horrifying, but it's real. And we have to understand that to truly come to terms with who we're dealing with over there. Because the savages who carried out these attacks are the same people that Joe Biden and the Democrats have been funding with the help of organizations like USAID. Literally billions of our tax dollars have gone to support these terrorists who wish us nothing but death and destruction. Mona, who still lives in fear, wishes to remain anonymous, but has made it a mission to tell as many people as she can about what happened to her and her family that day. Mona, thank you for coming on the show today. I know this isn't easy, but I appreciate you sharing your story with us.
Thank you. I've been wanting to do this for a long, long time, but I never had the mental capacity. I was going through so much. But now it's time. And the most thing that encouraged me to do that is we have a real president. Mr. Trump gave all of us the confidence to speak loudly about what's going on in this world. And I truly hope you'll get my message and everybody can see what the Christians go through all over the world.
I know it's difficult, but can you tell us what happened to you that day?
Okay, we were sleeping at night, and all we can hear before we went to bed that something is going to happen in our town. We didn't know what. So my aunt told us to all gather together that night just in case something happened. We didn't know what. But we went down to my aunt, which was next door. One of the big room in her house was like built on a rock for protection in case something happened. So we all go down there, her family, our family, my mom and dad, my brother, sister. So we go down. Around midnight, we hear this huge knock on the door. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. A word that never ever leaves my ears. I cry every time I hear it because these animals kill in the name of God. That's their God. They're killing. So they came in, they broke the door. My cousin, who was newly married, opened the door and they shot him as he was going down. He said, "You killed me, you son of a bitches," and he fell to the floor. And then they walked in the room, the big room where we were all hugging each other, crying and gathering and praying. Then on the way in, they found the pictures of the Virgin Mary and Jesus. They broke the picture, they stepped on them, and they were screaming and yelling and swearing at us. Then they walked in the room. It was a perfect setup for them to kill as many as they can. So they started with my aunt's children. They killed 4 of her children, boom, boom, boom. And then she kneeled down on their feet to tell them, "Spare my son, leave me one son." And then when she said that, they shot her in the head. Then they started killing. They killed my brother and my sister, and they fell to the ground too. They shot my brother, my other brother, and my mom, but they didn't die. But the biggest one came to me, and unfortunately, I made it. I've been suffering for 49 years. The biggest shot, I was sitting on the couch. I was a little higher. So it came, I put my hand on my eyes, and it shot me here and here. So because my hand got shot here, it fell on the ground along with my jaw. From here down, everything was on the ground. It fell on my chest. So I fell down. Another group came in and they started to see if there was any other people alive. They took my mom and my brother and then as a hostage because they were still alive. And then my sister and my 2 cousins were hiding in the bathroom. Another group took them. They thought they were going to rape them and kill them. But thank God, it's a long story how they survived. So I was on the ground pretty much almost till the morning, trying to struggle to breathe with all the skin hanging everywhere, blocking my breathing. I couldn't breathe. I'm like going like this, and all that blood and skin and bone block. I'm saying, "God, please let me die now, let me die." And then I'm looking at my brother and sister dead in front of me. And it wasn't January. I was freezing to death. I was shivering on the ground. So finally in the morning, some young men from my town, they heard what happened in the beginning of the town. We lived near the water, near the Mediterranean. So they came, they carried me in a blanket. They put me in the car, right to a helicopter, got transferred to the hospital. And when I got there, everybody was going, "Ooh, ooh," no one could look at me. And I'm like, I had no idea how bad I looked. So they took me in. The doctor said, we've never seen anything like this. So to make a long story short, it was horrible.
What you've described, Mona, is absolutely, it's unimaginable. None of us sitting here today in America can possibly understand what you went through. Tell us about the aftermath of the attack. Tell us what happened to your village afterwards. What happened to your parents? What happened afterwards?
Well, the whole village was completely wiped out. Those that were able to flee, they went by boat, by car to their relatives. Everybody, the entire village of 10,000 people was completely empty. People ran away. They didn't know what happened. There was no government making an announcement. There was no army coming to the rescue. Nothing. I mean, it was just incredible. And it took about 4 days to completely wipe it out. They burnt every church. They just tortured the people in churches. They went to the cemetery. So the whole town is gone. So I came to America with my dad for consultation. So I did that and then listen to this horror story. One night, the first surgery I had, after a week, I'm sleeping and then I woke up and I saw bones on my pillow. There were pieces of bones from my bone graft that didn't take. That I never forget that as long as I live. There was blood and bones on my pillow. My aunt called. They took me in an ambulance to the hospital, and then I had to do it again and again and again. It was horrifying. So I showed you the picture, Pearson, with my X-ray. If you look at it, you could see how there's nothing here. It's all empty. I got all bone graft, skin graft, you name it, graft. None of it is my own. Then I have to deal with the dental situation. It's just been horrifying.
What is your message for Americans today? What do you think that people need to understand about what's happening in Lebanon and in Israel?
Yeah. Well, you know what? This Democratic uh, government, or whatever you want to call party, have done more damage for people like me and for the cause. We need to protect Christians. We need to know how ruthless and savages those people are. This is not a religion. They kill in the name of the religion. You know, they hate us to the bone. You know, when 9/11 happened, they were distributing baklava. They were dancing in the street. When something happened to the Christians, they're having a big celebration. They go into the moms and telling them, "What a great son! You raised a fighter to kill innocent people." So it's an ideology. We can't deal with it. It's happening all over the West, and then they come here, and then they are all over our universities. They're all over the world.
Quickly, what would you say your message is for President Trump? What would you want him to know?
Well, President Trump, I could see from the way he talks, he really knows who is who. He knows that Lebanese Christians are suffering. He knows that they're going through hell with all this. I want him to also know about me and my message because I adore the man. And the only reason I'm on now is because I pray for him every day to keep this country on its feet. Because if we don't have him, we were gonna be eaten by all our enemies. They don't fear God. They're willing to die. They would walk into death just to kill a Christian or a Jew. I also want to thank you, Pearson, for bringing this to light, because I've been wanting to do this for a long time, but now is the time. It can't wait anymore.
Mona, thank you for coming on with us today and for sharing your story. Be safe and may God bless you.
I think you're the greatest. Keep up the good work, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
For all our viewers asking where One America News is heading in the future, we would like to introduce you to OAN Live. OAN Live is the best way to stay up to date on all of the hard-hitting, straight-shooting, national and international headlines. And the best part is, OAN Live is only $4.99 per month. All the credible, honest, unbiased reporting One America News offers at a fraction of the cost of cable. Just go to OANN.com to easily sign up for OAN Live and stay informed.